What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. I want to dive into some of the top performances coming out of the Week 1 preseason game against the Washington Commanders. And there was one of the unlikeliest superstars to come out of this game, right? And there should be legit hype for this person, in my opinion, especially coming off of a lot of these consistent, and I would dare to say elite based off what I've been hearing practices. But nonetheless, some of the top guys out of here. Let's kick it off with the best or highest rated player coming out of that game in Jarrick Bernard-Converse, our cornerback now. We drafted him as a potential safety option. And when you think about the projected roster way in the beginning of the offseason, he looked like a guy that could be on the outside looking in, especially after we went and signed a guy like Isaiah Oliver as well. But coming into this game, his first realistic chance, keep in mind, to see game time. Keep in mind, last year he only played 4 snaps, was mostly devoted to special teams, and then even during that offseason, he wasn't healthy, so he couldn't really go out there and show what he can do at safety or at cornerback as he rehabilitated himself. But had an 87.9 PFF grade. From what I saw, he was targeted 6 times, only allowed the big 42-yard catch, I think it was, to De'Ami Brown. And to be honest, it was great ball placement by Jaden Daniels, but great coverage. This is one of those things where even Sauce Gardner, you hear him highlight that sometimes he feels he's played he's played the pass perfectly when, talking about Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson facing him. He plays the pass perfectly. However, unfortunately, perfect coverage doesn't matter in the world of physics. Sometimes you can just get that perfect pass out there, and the combination of physical traits from the offensive weapon. It is what it is, and that happened to be one of those particular plays, so I wasn't mad at it whatsoever. But you seen him not only have the rest of the game strong coverage, and even in that play, elite ability to attack the ball, but he had a strong presence in the run game as well, sniffed out some quick screen games. He was squeezing guys to the boundary. JBC, and I talked about this a couple videos ago, he is a technician when it comes to fundamentals, when it comes to technique, and you're seeing this really start to shine and be a reason that he can stand out amongst this group. So now the conversation isn't necessarily will he be able to make the 53-man roster per se. It's one performance. He has a lot of practices under his belt that he's been hyped up for. But the conversation more so is now, can he crack this cornerback rotation? He still may be on the outside looking in from the perspective that you have DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner, MC2 locked into roles. Quantez Stiggers has arguably been doing just as well, if not better than him, throughout the offseason. And then you have Brandon Echols, who is in some cases a fan favorite, right? But can they do enough to knock Brandon Echols off of his pedestal? It might be in their favor, right? They'd be restarting a little bit younger. Maybe they can turn Brandon Echols into a trade opportunity elsewhere. I've already mentioned I think he could be a potential cut candidate due to his legal troubles and that being able to impact him getting on the field as well. But nonetheless, elite showing from JBC here. And if he can keep this going throughout the preseason, sky's the limit for him, right? This is just another example of this coaching staff being able to quickly get guys looking like just NFL talent, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have a role, a designated starting position, but they understand the logistics of how to get a guy from point A to point B. And to Robert Saleh's point, he's mentioned a first rounder to an undrafted free agent. The talent gap isn't necessarily always significant. It's more so about the work ethic, the mentality, the strain, all that kind of stuff. And we're seeing that on display here with JBC. Second in PFF grades was Tac McKinley with 86.7. I haven't been able to dive into a ton because he also didn't play a lot, right? 17 snaps. It was good for 24% of the total defensive plays on the day, and he had 2 assisted tackles to go with the quarterback hit. So the most I can say at face value in, one of the few plays I can recall where I've seen him out there on the field was that he's still showing the same ability that we saw throughout training camp, which was a quick get off he's usually beating people in the first couple moves, and then if not, things can get a little bit sticky. But seeing him active, seeing him involved in the defense is a huge sign for a guy that balled out. Remember, in the span of 2 or 3 practices, he had about 6 sacks or so. So keep his name in the back of your mind, right? He might get more run as the preseason goes on, but I take the early departure for him as somewhat of a signal that the Jets feel like he may end up being in that defensive line rotation when it comes to the regular season kicking off. And then finally, Adrien Martinez, he was able to eke out a higher grade than Andrew Peasley at 85.7. Game-winning fourth quarter drive. One of the things that I liked is he highlighted a point that Aaron Rodgers has been working with him on, which was keeping his eyes down the field when he's looking to make plays with his legs, or he's extending plays with his legs, and that's exactly what you got to see. He's actually demonstrated 4 times, right? I talked about this in the recap video. We had the big highlight plays to Brandon Smith, but he also had 2 very impressive plays that should have been catches by McCutcheon. Yeah, I think that's it. Lance McCutcheon, if I'm remembering the name correctly. He couldn't corral those in. Otherwise, his performance looks even more so impressive. But the late game heroics are something that I'll always speak to us, right, as a big reason why we have fell in love with Chris Streveler a couple of seasons ago. One of the other interesting pieces about him is that, keep in mind, he's had a longer development track this year than a lot of other players, right? He's coming from the UFL, 12-week season, jumped immediately into, not immediately, but jumped into a training camp with the Jets once we picked him up, and he's been working quite through. So you can definitely consider him, in many ways, still a rookie, right? He's gone through the trenches of a full season for the UFL anyways, and now he's having to jump right back into the rigors of the NFL. So very impressive stuff from him. I think the physical attributes will definitely end up helping him in terms of any real significant battle between him and Andrew Peasley, who has a couple weeks on him. But let me know who you guys think or who you would have as some of your top performers. Obviously, there's a ton of other names that deserve recognition. If we just want to go through an honors list, right? Olu Fashanu stood out. Joe Tippmann, as mentioned, he was able to stand out. Of course, not having any bad snap issues is the highlight with him. Stiggers, he had himself a day. Jalen Key had himself a day making tackles. We had our undrafted free agent Leonard Taylor, who popped and had some words of encouragement from Robert Saleh. So plenty of names. Eric Watts, Brady McGregor. A lot of the undrafted free agents in rookie class have far exceeded expectations in my eyes. But let me know what you guys think. I'll catch you again. Peace.